I was born in Baltimore, Maryland, but I have no memory of Baltimore, except buttercups, flowers in a field. My parents moved every 6 months, and I never stayed in any school or any place. When I lived in Colorado, I saw really bad dance on television. Worst dancer in the world. I loved it. I thought it was so beautiful. So I told my mother I want to dance. And we start. And I think that the reason I stayed in dance is because my parents moved every 6 months. I had no friends. Every 6 months you would move, new children you would meet, they would beat you up. But if you could dance very well, you go to the school and they love you. And I don't know whether it was conscious, but I know that the music, the movement, it was the only place in the world where I could express myself. When my parents finally stopped in Ohio, in Cincinnati, by then I had become a very good dancer. And there was a ballet company there, and I wanted in very badly. And I became an apprentice when I was 12. And every year they would make me audition to become full member in the company, and every year they say no. And when I was 14, again they said no. And I got angry. So I stood in front of the director for 2 months, in front of him, like this, notice me. After 3 months he gave up and he said, okay, you're in. But first he said, my God, you're short. I said, well, so are you. So he said, okay, you go in. And it was through that period I also discovered that I could sit in the audience and I could look at a ballet, and after 2 times I knew what every person did, everyone. And during that period in the United States there were also riots. They closed the universities, we were thrown out of our spaces, and I was the person who remembered everything. Soloists got hurt, I went in. And at that period it was still, it was exciting because you're young. Sometime I moved to New York to work with Joffrey, and the competition was hard, and I was in Joffrey too. And sometimes I wasn't, it was up and down and yes and no and yes and no. And my feeling for ballet became very small because I met a man named James Truitt. James Truitt, 6'4", beautiful black man, modern dancer, feeling everything. When I met him, you knew that there was more to dance than just showing positions. So when I went back to the ballet company, during that period, I was a very bad ballerina. Here, not very good. Yes, you can do the technical steps, but my heart, it's gone. But the decision to stop ballet didn't come easy. I stopped dance for 2 years. For also another reason, because when you grow up from the age of 4 to the age of 20, you always dance, 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 dance. You think that maybe you're just a stupid dancer and you can't do anything else. So I stopped for 2 years and I moved to San Francisco and I worked in a department store. I sold carpets, I sold lamps, and I learned that I was intelligent and I didn't need dance. The minute you know you don't need the art comes back. It comes back, and from that moment, being a dancer was really easy. I went back to the ballet company for 1 year, but again, ballet doesn't work, so I moved back to New York, and I went into Broadway company. And it's just to change, and then jazz company, and then back to modern. I wanted to see everything. When most dancers, especially in the United States, you join one company, one. You stay there your whole life. I've been a disaster. Little here, little there, little here, little there. When I say, oh, I want to stay in this company till I learn this, the minute I learn it, I want to leave. I moved to Canada. I met my husband. I like Canadians, and I stayed. Through that period also in that company, you start working and you work and you work and you work and you work, and again, you lose yourself. And then I met a woman named Judith Marcuse. And Judith asked me to work in her company. Best dancers in Canada, fantastic, beautiful choreography. And I said no, because I was tired. A year later, I go back and I asked if I can only be dancer, because Judith wanted me to be rehearsal mistress and dancer and many jobs. And she said yes. And she let me alone. She gave me steps, and she let me do anything I wanted. Anything. And in that moment, the woman gave me my life back. She gave me art back, she gave me life, she gave me breath, she gave me everything. It was the most beautiful time in my life. After 2 years, I stopped her company. And Judith asked me why, and I said, you know, when I came to you, I was a broken dancer, but I'm better now. And now I have to fly on my own. I owe this woman everything. I think also I was ready for Judith because right before I went there, I was in the Mexican earthquake. The very large one, 3,000 people died. When you face death, when so many people are dead and people are falling apart and there are people on the streets and crying and there's so much tragedy and you're still alive and you can still look around and you can still see things and the life and things happening, the mind changes. I think the problem with most people is so many people now, they think only of future. What am I going to do tomorrow? What do I do tomorrow? But they forget about today. They don't live today. If, from that moment, I mean, if I die right now in this chair, it's okay. Because everything I've done today, I've been happy. I'm happy with whoever I'm with. And it makes everything easy. It's also, there are hard parts in your life. There are tragedies, but tragedy and difficult times don't bother me. Because I know if you have the ability to live through them and take in all the information, you'll be stronger when you finish. I say that. I mean, when my husband died, I sat in a room for a month. I just sat like this. And the dancers would come to me and I would yell at them. I would scream at my own dancers to get out, go away, leave me alone. And this is when you know you have good friends, because no matter how awful I was to them, they came back. Every time you work in a company, people have a box. They want to know what you are, who you are, what you think, who you think, you know. And I wanted a group of people that thought for themselves. My group says horrible things to me and good things. You can say anything. It's okay. It's that openness that allows us to create. And the creation from inside, from the emotion, is, to me, what makes the art. Now, I don't know, I know it's not ballet, but I don't know if it's modern. I don't know what modern is. I know that 90% of what I see I don't like. But I know what I have to create. I know I wake up every morning and I go to sleep, and all day long I'm thinking. I'm thinking of new ideas, and I don't know why. I don't know why I can still create. I mean, probably the one thing, see, this is hard to say. Only my friend Amanda knows. Amanda, I met 18 years ago. She is my sister. We met, it's like this. Amanda has no money because of me. She has no life because of me. She allows me to do what I do. And I ask her why. And she says because she believes. But when you ask me what I think in here, and she knows, I feel I'm a fraud. Because I create, I don't know if it's good. I don't know if it's bad. I know what I want to say. Who knows? Sometimes you create things that are, to you, perfect. And tomorrow it's still perfect, as long as it stays perfect. Sometimes you create, and I want to go back and change. But that insecurity is the fraud. I look at, you look at other artists and they look very confident, and choreographers, and I don't feel like that ever. Never. All I know is every morning I get up, I feel like I have to create, I have ideas, and I have to keep working. I want to say things. I want to make the world better. I know everyone says I'm crazy because I want all races to get along. I want people to get along. I want people to understand each other. I want people to let each other be. Who cares what ideas you have? It's not your way, learn another way. Most of your life is not plan A. People who say, I'm going to do this, and then this, and then this, and this, they're in for many surprises. Your life goes this way, then it goes that way, this way, that way, this way. That's the beauty of life. That's the same beauty of creation. I go in with one idea, who knows where it goes? The bizarre thing is, even though I'm a perfectionist, I don't ask the same thing of the dancers or my group, but I assume that they are perfectionists. What I ask for them is to always continue to search to be better. I don't care if it's technically, but grow emotionally. Try something you've never tried before in your life. You have to try something new. You have to do things that you're afraid of. With every piece that I create, if I think I cannot do it, I have to do it. If I think I can do it, I don't want to do it. What's the point of repeating what you've done? So I ask the same thing of the dancers. What do they want emotionally in their lives? What do they want to try? What are they afraid to try? What haven't they tried? And I mix them. Those that can't do something, I put them in that position. That was the fun part about Planetarium. Planetarium was difficult, though. This is a project that started that, for me, is going to go on quite a few years. And the layers have to get added in, and it has to become richer and more movement. And all I feel that I've created now is just a skeleton of what it can be. The true meaning of the Planetarium are the people within the cast, and all the creators and all the collaborators. That's the true spirit of the work. Okay, so the Planetarium project for me at this point is not over. This is only a pause. Toronto was a dress rehearsal. This was a good experience, and we continue it on in the next country and make it bigger. So far, pleased. And right now, I'm very tired. And all I want to do is go to sleep now that it's over. And take a break before I get back to Toronto and start again.
You're cranky today, huh?
What?
Are you cranky today?
No, I listened to music.
What did you drink yesterday?
I'm fine. For me, Planetarium was a very enjoyable experience in that the intermingling of two cultures really bring out something very unique within everybody's personality, to see the different cultures. So Planetarium was a major success, and it's just something that is ingenious that would go on forever and ever, just as how, you know, we keep moving. And to bring all this together is beyond words. It's indescribable.
Macedonians, they were from a different background, different culture, different life experience, and our set coming from Toronto, total different experience as well. So those are some of the things that we had to blend, and it was a natural blend because there's no written way in how to blend people together to get some positive work out of blending. So we all individually had our own way of working with each other and communicating with each other, and Cole and Kiro for the painting was just stunning to actually work with a composer and a painter, because usually you work with their music or on a painting and you never know who these people are. You just have the names, but to actually meet the personalities and sharing their ideas helped to make Planetarium a success.
Well, the last few days have been beautiful. We spent a lot of really quality time in Oak Ridge, which was nice. St. Naum's, stunning, monastery, gorgeous. Yesterday, all the girls went over to the beach and lied down and went for a swim, and the water was just crystal clear. It was the most gorgeous water I think I've ever seen in my life, actually. Went on a beautiful boat cruise into the springs, and then came back and got to do a show at night, looking at the stars over a lake. It was so beautiful. Staring at the moon halfway through the performance. I've had a great time. I'm sad to go.
Hi. Had a wonderful time.
How much longer would you be mine? Oh, I heard a pretty great time. Oh, I'm just about to lose my mind. Honey, honey, yeah.
So when I started the company, you discover what poverty is, like real poverty. Right? You think you're poor, and then there's less money, and then you think you're poor, and then there's less money, and then you think you're poor, and there's less money, and boy, you really discover what poor is. And through that period, dancers would feed me. Amanda was going broke. She would be crying at night. I would watch her get stressed, and then, you know, and you ask her, you know, do you want to stop? And she'd say no. And through this whole period, I'm amazed that she still says no. And you find that you don't need most things in life. See, I thought it was a funny story, and then I was here in Macedonia, and I thought it was a funny story, and I found out she thought it was really serious, because when we got back from here, we owe $180,000. And the dog got sick, so there's no money. I think it's funny. I mean, this is life. You know, sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's hard. So I told this story. Poor is only in your mind. I learned that from my grandmother. My grandmother had nothing. The woman had nothing. My father had nothing. He tells me stories about they lived in a house on his grandfather's farm. They didn't like this part of the family. He would wake up with snow on him. When I was a small child, my father would go hunting. That meat was important. When you accept that you have no hope and no humor, then you're poor. I have friends. I have my work. I have interesting things to do every day. And life keeps you amused. I mean, dance, I work for many companies, and some of them you'd watch how many dancers would lose their minds and leave. Because they're rough, you're touring the world and things are happening. You've got to find the humor. I mean, I've had machine guns pointed at me, you know, get out of the way, but you know, once you're out of the danger, it's kind of funny. You know, you weren't shot, you weren't killed. And you end up in the most bizarre situations, but you've seen so much of the world. There are people that you meet all the time when you're dancing and teaching. And it's funny how some of these people become big names or celebrities, and your image of them always remains as you first met them. Like, there was a little mouse in Cincinnati Ballet in Nutcracker, first one. And she was such a little pain in the butt. I mean, she had so much energy. She was hard to control. There was always a group of us that had to control the children. And she ended up being Sarah Jessica Parker. And I still look at her as being that little mouse. And then there was another girl that I had in Toronto, and her personality, she really is, she's the most giving, wonderful person I would know. And that's Neve Campbell. Neve Campbell is one of those people that every time she does something successful, I mean, your heart, because you know who she is, you just, you know, you always wish her the best. And when I was younger, I met, through my friend Marianne, another dancer. Well, actually not another dancer. I met this Austrian bodybuilder who was trying to find some moves to like make his moves better, and that was Schwarzenegger. And I always thought that was kind of bizarre. But at the same time, in Cincinnati, all the football players were taking ballet at one point because they thought that because ballet dancers could leap and jump better, that maybe by them taking ballet that they wouldn't get injured as much. So I mean, you meet odd people. It's the same thing through New York. There were so many people running through the company all the time, like Gwen Verdon and Shirley MacLaine and Robin Williams and De Niro, and it was just this constant barrage of people, and it was cool. I mean, you got to see the good, the bad, and who they were. Whole center. Okay. No, I put a real one in center. There's only one crossover in this whole piece. My father has asked me to quit dance many times. He asked me to quit dance when I was young and go to school and be something better than a dancer, something that would make money. He asked me to quit dance when he saw me in the ballet company in Swan Lake, and he came to the performance and he said, "You look so sad and this is wrong for you." And the most important time is he asked me to quit a couple of years ago, and we had this discussion. He said he was worried because I make no money. And I asked him, I said, you know, your whole life you were an engineer. And then one day I watched you and you changed your whole life. You went back to school as an engineer and you changed your whole life and you became a computer programmer. I said, why? He said, because I was happier. I said, same. Maybe I don't have any money, but I'm living the same life you are. I'm happy. And I know that you're worried about my life in the later time, but I made a decision that, you know, if there is a moment, and when I come to the point where I don't fear death, sometimes, yes, I do fear getting old, but if there is a point where I am homeless and I'm one of those people on the street, then that's the choice that I made. And all I have to know is that up until that point, I lived life exactly as I wanted to. I created what I want to do. And if that happens, it's not a tragedy. It's just a different phase of life. And just take it happily. Don't look at your life as tragic. Try to find the good in everything that happens. Death, injury, people's sickness, problems. It's all part of life, and that's the richness of life. If you can accept every part of it, you're happy with every single moment and every single person. And I think that's the real essence of what creation and life is, and that's all I can do, is I can be myself.
One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 11. Welcome to this heaven. Welcome to this hell. They're doing well. They're doing well.
No rhythm, no blues, no nothing to lose. No silence, no use, nothing to choose. No rhythm, no blues, no nothing to lose. No silence, no news, nothing to lose.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 12, 13, 11.
My mother, she loved it that I was a ballet dancer. She loved it. My daughter, the ballet dancer. When I stopped ballet, she was not happy at all. And I went to Broadway, and she said, it's okay, you know. Then she saw the modern dance, she was not so crazy. But it's when I started creating dance. And my mother came to the first show, and she said, it's not pretty. It's not pretty. I said, yeah, I know, Mom, it's not pretty, but that's me, you know, that's the way I think. And, you know, what I think is pretty, I think this is pretty, and Mom thinks this is pretty, you know, so we have different versions on what we think is pretty. And, you know, same as we wear different clothes. And now, I only call my mother when I know that I'll call her up and I say, you know, I think you can come to the show because it's pretty.